I recently just read This Book Will Make You Dangerous, and one of the biggest takeaways that I had is that fear is the driving motivator behind many of the decisions that we make and the actions that we take throughout our lives. To be more specific, it's the fear of discomfort. It's the fear of losing something that is of material value to us. And it's the fear of losing respect and admiration of our peers. And so these fears lead you to take up a defensive posture in life, where you move through life trying your best to avoid these fears rather than pushing forward into the chaos, into the uncertainty, ultimately to pursue a better life for yourself. You're essentially playing not to lose instead of playing to win. You're playing defense and reacting to life as it comes to you instead of going on the offensive, dictating your own destiny and living life by your own terms. So in the book, the author uses this example of how prey animals, basically the ones that get chased and eaten, have eyes on the sides of their faces so that they can see a wide view of the landscape and quickly react and run away in case something is chasing them. But on the other hand, predators have eyes on the fronts of their faces so that they can focus on their target and chase down their next meal. Predator animals move towards what they want with focus and determination, irrespective of the distractions that are in their peripherals. Now, we as humans have eyes on the fronts of our faces as well. So we shouldn't always be reacting to life, always on the lookout, ready to run away at the first sign of danger and adversity. Instead, we should be shaping our environment rather than reacting to it. We should have laser focus on the opportunities that lie ahead and constantly be moving towards those opportunities, just like the lion or the tiger who's going after their next meal. Now, the thing that really hits home for me is this idea that our past successes makes us more susceptible to playing life on defense. Now, what do I mean by that? As we progress through life, we begin to acquire more creature comforts, more wealth, more status, and we start to live our lives so that we don't lose what we already have instead of being ambitious and striving for more. And so most of us will never reach our full potential because we've settled for good enough, comfortable enough, because we fear the consequences of going beyond that. Now, you may think that you're not one of these people, that you don't fall into this category, but the truth is that you probably have done this to one degree or another at some point in your life. In fact, all of us have. If you've ever chose not to pursue, say, a certain career path in life because of not wanting to disappoint your parents or fear of being judged by your peers, if you've ever hesitated to pursue a business idea because you feel like you don't have enough money, or you're too worried about what happens if it fails and you lose everything, or you think that it's going to take away from the amount of time that you get to spend with your family. If you ever avoided conflict or disagreement simply because you're uncomfortable with the idea of confrontation, these are all examples of playing defense and letting fears drive your decisions. These fears cause you to delay, or even worse, never take action. So this leads me back to my theme of playing the game of life on offense. Now, what do I mean by playing offense? The Merriam-Webster dictionary defines it as the method of attacking or attempting to score. So translating this to more practical terms, it's the method of attacking life, our goals, our careers, our ambition, and attempting to win, or living life exactly as you wish. I see playing offense as being in a position of strength. Just like in sports or in combat, being on offense and dictating the terms, the pace, the cadence of how your life unfolds is the best possible position to be in. So I encourage all of you watching this to think about how you can transition out of a defensive posture of weakness and into an offensive position of strength. Now, that's basically the challenge that I have given myself for this upcoming year. And how do you do this? First, you have to build a strong moral foundation and establish a sense of self. You've got to become comfortable with discomfort, embrace failure and embarrassing situations. Now, while it doesn't feel good, you do get the satisfaction of knowing that you're building durability and mental toughness and fortitude when you lean into discomfort and come out on the other side unscathed. You'll also need to understand that personal satisfaction comes from within and not from material possessions. So money, wealth, creature comforts, and other external factors. You may not always be able to control them, but you absolutely can control your attitude towards having or not having them. And chances are there was probably a point in your life, maybe when you were 18 or 19 years old in college or something like that, when you really didn't have much to your name. Yet you were totally fine. You learned how to live on the bare minimum, and your happiness and satisfaction wasn't necessarily rooted in like having all of these things. So you want to get back to that mind state where you know that you can survive and thrive with far less than what you currently have. So when you detach your happiness from external factors, it becomes far easier to begin making moves that are not rooted in fear of losing what you have. And the final part of the first step is to build self-confidence rather than using external validation as a crutch. This is especially in the age of social media, where it's really easy for our perception of self to become distorted and inflated. When you base your confidence on the opinions and validation of other people, you make it really hard for yourself to chart your own path, because you become susceptible to approval-seeking behavior, trying to satisfy other people instead of yourself. Now, how to build self-confidence is a whole nother video in itself. But to cover the basics, you want to learn how to embrace solitude and be alone with your thoughts. You'll want to increase your knowledge, particularly in topics that will help you bring value to the world. You'll need to work out and develop your physique and posture. And you'll need to learn how to manage stress and your emotions. But ultimately, it comes down to being sure of yourself and unmoved by other people. Now, this first step is absolutely essential, because you will, with 100% certainty, be tested with very uncomfortable situations. You will face loss in one way or another. You will be embarrassed sometimes. You'll be shamed and rejected by other people who just don't understand, or frankly, don't care about your purpose and your cause. And hey, that's good for them. But if you are solidly grounded, then you have set the stage for the next step, which is to define the experiences that you want to have in life. Now, this is really important because people have a tendency to focus too heavily on outcomes, like making a bunch of money or dating a beautiful woman or having a really big house. But life is a series of experiences, not outcomes. We experience the day-to-day grind of life. We experience happiness, sadness, joyful moments, regrettable moments. Experiences are literally defined as the things that a person encounters and lives through, or the conscious events that make up a person's life. So what series of conscious events do you want to make up your life? So for example, if your goal is having $10 million, what you don't want to do is center everything in your life around the outcome of having $10 million in the bank. Instead, you want to take things a step further and think about the experiences that having $10 million will enable you to enjoy. Perhaps it's the freedom of not having to answer to a boss, or it's the flexibility of being able to travel whenever and wherever you want. But when you clearly define the experiences that you're seeking, a couple of things happen. You unlock your mind to all of the potential pathways that lead to that experience. So having $10 million is just one of many ways to living a life of freedom and flexibility, but it's not the only way. And you also give yourself guidance and direction. You see, when you're too outcome focused, you could spend much of your time moving in the wrong direction, seeking an outcome that doesn't actually produce the experiences that you want out of life. So if you having $10 million is contingent on you being places that you don't want to be and doing things that you don't want to do, then we want to avoid that. That completely defeats the purpose. Okay, now once you have clearly defined the experiences that you want out of life, the next step, number 3, is to develop a plan. Now, a plan is not the law. It's only a plan. Things will change and will not always go according to the plan. But having a plan does provide a framework. It provides guardrails that help you visualize all of the different scenarios that could arise. And you can preemptively work through them so that you can navigate all of the different obstacles that come up more confidently and more efficiently than if you had not thought them through beforehand. Having a plan not only keeps you focused, but it also helps to prevent you from making poor judgments and poor decisions when you're in the moment and caught up in emotions. Now, your plan doesn't need to be elaborate or super sophisticated. You just need to logically draw out all of the steps that you need to take in order to turn the experiences that you want from life into a reality. And for each step, you'll want to think about all of the different things that can go wrong and can go right, and what your next course of action will be in either case. Once you have a plan, you now have a roadmap for leaving behind a life that's based in fear and playing not to lose and settling for good enough. And you're prepared to confidently step into a world where you're ready to take risks. You know exactly what you want out of life, and you know what you need to do to get it. But a roadmap is useless until you actually get on the road and start moving. Which leads me to the final step of moving from a position of fear and weakness and into a position of strength. The final step, number 4, is to take decisive action. So I once had a boss that told me that I had all of the skills that I needed to succeed in the job, but I needed to stop overthinking and overanalyzing and just do it. He told me that making the effort and doing things wrong and then asking for forgiveness would earn me a lot more respect than asking for permission. And that advice really stuck with me because it translates to so many other areas of life. We have this tendency to spend way too much time weighing all of our options, not because we want to make the right decision, but because we have a fear of making the wrong decision. They call this analysis paralysis or the paradox of choice. But since you've committed to no longer letting fear drive your decisions, and you've learned to become comfortable with discomfort, you should, at this point, be willing and able to take decisive action. So it doesn't mean thinking about it. It doesn't mean telling people about your intentions to do it. It means doing it with actual measurable and tangible results. And the results of your actions don't need to be grand or life-changing. In fact, it's better to focus on small and insignificant victories every day. Because when you keep your goals small and not overly ambitious, you're way more likely to achieve them and they're way more manageable. And every time you accomplish them, you get a small hit of dopamine, which is basically a chemical in our brains that gives us the motivation to keep pursuing something. So the key is focusing on small wins, small victories over time that eventually compound to major life changes and major life achievements. And you end up living a life that is specifically curated for satisfying your own personal wants, your needs, and your desires, rather than a life in which you simply settled for good enough. So you want to constantly apply pressure with small but persistent actions, and you want to constantly push yourself just beyond the edge of your comfort zone. And remember, it is always better ask for forgiveness when you need to, but never ask for permission. Now, if you complete these 4 steps, you will have done the work that 99.9% of the population will never do. And you will have put yourself on a path in life that is specially curated for you and by you. At this point, you should be well equipped to face your fears, discomfort, uncertainty, doubt, judgment. You can finally stop playing it safe, and you can go on the offensive by attacking life with the intentions of actually winning instead of playing not to lose. All right, so I hope you guys found this helpful. It's been over 7 months since I've made a video. I'm happy to get back to it. So please leave some feedback. If you enjoy this video and this content, then hit the like button, subscribe, and until next time, remember guys, to get up, get out, and get after it. Peace.